Anthony Moyles is with us this morning. Anthony, good morning to you. How are you?
Gents, how are we doing?
Yeah, good. Wild speculation from an unnamed source in Johnny's...
Kev Coughlin, good Jude's man.
His kitchen cabinet. Kerry would destroy Dublin in a semi-final. Would they?
No, don't think so. Don't think they destroyed them. I'm not as downbeat on Dublin as some people seem to think. I've been trying to fly the flag here, which is a bit strange, obviously, for the last number of weeks. But I think even the results yesterday, like I heard Dessie Farrell's interview, obviously with the lads earlier on. I don't think he's overly worried, Ger. I don't think he's that worried at all. Like, I mean, they could have won the game. They could have drawn the game. They should have drawn the game. Like, I mean, they had the game in the death, and they kicked some really bad wides in the last 4 or 5 minutes. The last 4 or 5 minutes of the first half, they should have kicked 3 scores. They should have went in ahead, actually, at half-time instead of going 2 points behind. Butchered a couple of goal chances. Isolated Mick Fitzsimons in with Jack McCarron. Johnny Cooper was all at sea at number 6. Didn't know where they were. They had no defensive structure in the sense of being able to support and being able to hold that central column. Johnny Small is a big loss there, but he will be back. And again, we're back to the old, what we've been talking about the last couple of weeks, Conor Callahan to come back and Paddy Small to come back. So... And again, you take Dublin out of Croke Park. People have been saying it for a long, long time, and they just don't they love the confines of Croke Park. They're well used to it. It's like, everyone knows home ground, etc., etc. But it just gives them comfort. Whereas when they're out and they're out of their bubble a little bit, they're out of their comfort zone. They don't particularly like it. And I just thought their performance yesterday was very, very flat, Gerard. Like, if you looked at Fenton, I haven't seen Fenton play as poor in a game as a long, long time. He had zero influence, real lack of energy. If you watch even some of the goals, the very first goal, Mick Fitzsimons actually stops. He kind of slows down. He kind of says, someone else will get him, when actually if he really busted a gut to get back to the ball, he probably could have got a block on it. Howard did the same. The ball was there to be blocked, and fellas kind of going in. They weren't jumping at the feet of the Monaghan players. So I just thought it was a flat performance for them. Second half, they picked it up a bit. But
how are you flat, though, in your final league game, if that makes sense?
Yeah, well, look, it's a very valid question. They put, I think, a big effort into the last 2 games. And I don't know, Johnny, I don't know if it's expectation. I don't know if it's the fact of just travelling to the game, going to Monaghan, everything else. Like, I mean, as I said to you, I've been in some of those games where it just ends up being flat for whatever reason. I remember we played Cavan and Clonus one day in the championship, and it was a warm day, and you just couldn't get going. I don't know, it was the bus journey. You're just kind of fellas, just legs are heavy. Maybe they put in a big week of work this week. I'm not sure, but they looked flat. Monaghan love a challenge like that. Like, I mean, I heard a Dick Clerkin comment about we don't win All Irelands. Like, maybe that's a little bit kind of harsh, but I think it does delve into the psyche of the Monaghan maybe players and maybe some of the people around the Monaghan football, in the sense of they always want to go against. They always love to be the underdog, going against the bigger fish. And Monaghan, when they have been made favourites in games, haven't really held that tag too well in the last number of years. And it's been something that's nearly come back to bite them a lot of times. They love to try to knock the person down off the pedestal. That's the big one for them. And more often than not, when they've been favourites for some things, maybe sometimes they have faltered a bit. So yesterday, last week I was saying to you, Ger, my banker was Monaghan to go down. Well, there you go. And I did say, though, that's probably wrong. And the more I read about all the Houdini acts over the last number of years, I got more and more worried about that particular prediction, because, like, I mean, Jesus, fair play to them. It was an amazing stuff. They battled absolutely, and they showed the energy, and they showed the drive, and they showed the intensity that Dublin didn't really have. They had it in spells, and when I say flat, Johnny, they weren't flat for the whole game, but there was just those moments, those critical moments where you're kind of going, wrong shot selection again. Fellas just not really breaking a gut busting a gut to get back, and they haven't helped Shields out in goal at all. Like, Comerford is a big loss. Obviously, we all know Cluxon's a massive loss, but Comerford was like a mini-me version of him, and his kickouts were excellent. But Shields struggled really badly. They got cleaned out in midfield yesterday.
How is there any doubt about the penalty, by the way? I mean, that's not the most blatant. He was actually decapitated nearly on both sides.
Yeah. I didn't think there was any doubt about it, to be honest with you. Absolutely not. And what a build up to it.
The pass was sublime, like.
The pass, the goal was great, but that pass was even better, because if you watch it, Johnny Cooper was way off Moan. He was standing too far off him, and it was like a backdoor cut in basketball. Moan pretended to come towards the ball, and then he actually points. He's like in over his head. He points to him. He says, "Just put it in there for me," and he slipped a beautiful ball in over the top. But if you watch, Dublin very lackluster getting back. No one sees the danger from the far side. Howard is on the far side, and he stays with his man instead of saying, the danger is inside here, I have to sprint in. So they're the little kind of moments I'm talking about. But fair play to Monaghan, an amazing result, and a result that would really bode well for them when coming into the championship.
Well, I was going to ask, can that catapult them to stop thinking we'll never win All-Ireland? Like, internally, somebody in the dressing room must be going, well, Tyrone did it. And we're not far off where Tyrone were last year, and Tyrone managed last year to go all the way. I mean, a weird sequence of events led them there, but it got them there in the end. Monaghan surely must view themselves as capable of beating any of the other teams in the country on the day.
Yeah, they have. They should be, absolutely. And if you think about it, they did it yesterday without McManus. So they did it without their talisman, who's been the totem pole for the last 4 or 5 years, the guy who they've majorly relied on. So, if they'd won yesterday and McManus had scored as usual 6 or 7 or 8 points, you'd kind of say, well, they're still very reliant. But yesterday they did it without him. So McCarthy was excellent. He had an absolute nightmare last week against Kildare because they put him into a very weird, I think, number 6 position, marking Ben McCormick. He got absolutely cleaned out. And it was a major cause of all the issues. Didn't know where they were defensively last week. And so they righted that. Bit of a strange situation last week, but anyway, they righted that this week, and they got much more solid in the defence, much more tenacity. I referenced it last week how kind of passive they were in the tackle. Lots of bodies around there, but no one really influencing the ball and getting hits on. Whereas yesterday, they were tackling ferociously yesterday. They were getting into the Dublin lads' faces. Every score Dublin lads got was hard earned. But could they easily do it? I tell you who's a kind of a fly in the ointment for them in a positive way is Sheedy's there on the sideline. Liam Sheedy's there. Now Sheedy's won All Irelands, and Sheedy knows what's needed to win All Irelands, and he's that type of a infectious character. Very, very nice fella. Very kind of personable guy. But by Jesus, when you want to have someone to up the ante and to get you going, there's no better man there. So. You've Bandy on one side, you've him on the other. So, I don't think they'll really they won't fear for motivation. But the one thing for them is that slight lack of ambition when they get into the kind of when they're destined. They're kind of said, right, you guys are favourites for this, and you should go ahead. And the pressure is applied on them, and that's sometimes where they falter, and that's more as obviously a big psychological thing rather than a football ability thing.
Nothing psychologically wrong with Tyrone, who went to Kerry and won in Killarney. I say this on the show all the time. Brent Pope had that line about never give a sucker an even break. Kerry needed to just drag Tyrone and go, no, last year we annihilated you in the league. We're not going to annihilate you, but we're going to beat you, and we might end up relegating you, because they didn't know what was going to happen when the other results. Never give a sucker an even break. And Kerry are like, oh yeah, Tyrone, what could possibly go wrong? We're allowing you to thrive and get a victory today and get some confidence. No, this is definitely not going to come back and bite us in the hole, is it?
Yeah, it was a bit of a strange one for me, in the sense of that's exactly it felt to me that they did, right? I was a bit worried last week, not worried, but I was kind of thinking to myself, how is O'Connor going to face this game? Is he going to go full throttle? Is he going to have the players? And no matter, I still, people would say, oh, well, he had a strong team out, which he did have a strong team out, but it doesn't make a difference if you have a strong team out. If in that build-up to that game, things are slightly off, or if the players sense that, the dial has been dropped down a little bit, and the importance and the enormity of this game isn't all that great, well, then that filters through the players, and no matter what you think, it gets into the player's head. And that level of intensity just dropped slightly, and I definitely thought it did drop. I thought Tyrone were kind of nearly able to do it. It was a great game, but I thought Tyrone were able to dictate a little bit, which you wouldn't expect, obviously, where the game was played, and just. Yeah, they gave the game, as you say, they gave them an even break. Now, on the flip side, I've been very critical of Tyrone in the last number of weeks. I just thought they'd been all at sea. But yesterday was the first time they had a really, really solid. They seem to have their best players in their best positions yesterday, and then they seem to have other guys who have been a little bit off, really coming back. And playing well. The strength and depth is called. Like McShane hasn't really set the world alight at full forward, but then they bring in the likes of Richie Donnelly or even Matty Donnelly, and the two of them are just able to say, well, listen, if you're not doing it, we'll come in and we'll do it. They have an unbelievable, it's funny when you start to see them all coming back, you're looking at the bench and you're going, wow. And Canavan has been unbelievable, and McCurry has been unbelievable, and Hart has been unbelievable. So, they're not gone away as absolutely not a chance, have they? And yesterday is, you saw the scenes afterwards. They were out signing autographs for ages. You could see that obviously the management team were delighted. That's a massive one for them, Jerry. So, we spoke a couple of weeks about those last two league games, how important they are for the run-in into the training into the championship. And that's a big upward trajectory now for Tyrone over the last couple of weeks.
Okay, you've picked your 5 most informed players from the 2022 league. Who's on your list?
Well, there's only 4 Meath lads on it. And I stuck a Kildare lad in it then for the crack. No. Well, you know what? It's one of these, of course. Tommy hits me with this, and I'm like, Tommy, I would like to sleep tonight, because the name's rattling around in my head, and I'm thinking, no, Jesus, I'm going back. And then I'm thinking, do I have to get very scientific about this? Because, of course, I heard you, Johnny, the abuse you were getting. There's no doubt I'll get abuse for this, because then you say, Jesus, how could you leave out this fella? How could you leave out that fella? So I'm going to go, Ger, with, I think, the people who have remained consistently important for their teams over the course of the league. Not just one-hit wonders or one-game wonders. So, and of course, it's predominantly going to be Division 1, of course, with some honorary mentions for the rest of the guys. But I think, if you look at it, if you start about Tyrone, I think McCurry has been unbelievable. He's been practically, you haven't been able to defend against him. He's been scoring for fun. He's been a guy up front where they've stood. Now, Canavan has been good.
Can I just briefly on McCurry, right? Because we when Bernard Brogan had his book out, there was a bit where Brogan was coming off the bench and he kept getting blocked down. In the Kildare game, McCurry got blocked down for a goal chance, and I was like, wow, that's an amazing that's brilliant. 3 minutes later, same chance, back in the net, and you're like, oh my God, this guy. Like, it did strike me that sometimes forwards need another chance to get their eye in, and that one of the things that Dublin did with Brogan actually at the end was not give him that opportunity to get his eye back in, and they kind of wasted the last couple of years. And you can't say that because they won the 6 in a row, so it doesn't really matter. But it just did strike me that McCurry's now at a stage of his career where he's getting the love and support, and he's being backed in everything he does. So even if somebody has his measure for a few minutes in a game, the management aren't going, right, Hook, you're off. They're like, yeah, you're our boy. You go and fix that, because we know you're going to fix it.
Absolutely. And by the way, the flip side of that, of course, is as a player and as a forward, that's an unbelievable thing to know. So you're not looking over your shoulder when you make a mess of something. You're not thinking, geez, I didn't win that ball, or I got blocked down, or my man got out in front of me. You're not having to worry about that. You're safe and you're confident in the view that, actually, you know what, that one's not going to matter. And as a defender, what the horrible thing is even if you win 1 or 2 balls off him, I'm still under pressure. He's not going to get the shepherd's hook. He's probably going to, if he gets another ball, he's going to make a fool out of me. Like, if you look at that goal, time slows down with him. They say about the best forwards, obviously, that you nearly, instead of going +4, +6 on the old fast forward, it goes the other way. Fellas like the Gooch, all these guys were able to just get the ball, the balance they have, and the ability then to see what's available, whether it's a pass, whether it's a step inside. That goal against Kildare is a perfect example of it. So he's been excellent. He's been really, really good. And where he was that fringe player who if it didn't happen for him after 10 or 15 or 20 minutes, you could see he was under pressure and he was getting hooked all the time, which must have killed his confidence really, really hard on a forward. He has, he's stood up and he's shown the country his ability, and fair play to him. He's vital for them.
Okay.
I think Clifford, look, you can't look past Clifford with Kerry, Ger. Paddy Clifford has been very good, but obviously David Clifford has just been, again, he's taking the mantle on his shoulders. He's saying, listen, give me the ball. I don't care whether you give me the ball with 2 defenders on me, 3 defenders on me. I'll sell dummies. I'll physically dominate you. I'll bring players into the game. I'll do what's needed. And again, it's going to be a very, very exciting summer watching him. I think Tyg Morley has been really good. Like I know Johnny was saying there, I think Kerry, take away yesterday. Defensively, I think they've really improved actually this year. I think they've been excellent. And they've been quite mean. So they've got themselves into a good place, I think, from a defensive point of view. Morley has been kind of resurrected in that sense at 6. It was a real issue for them. They were struggling at 6, and they found him there now, and he has settled in, and he's starting to dominate games. But I think he's just more comfortable because they have an extra man behind him, and it's tighter for him. O'Connor in midfield has been very, very good for him, but the standout man is Clifford, and has been. I think Paddy McBurty has been really good for Donegal. That's a massive win for them yesterday. They probably could have won it by more. I don't know how kind of, into it Armagh were. They kind of fielded a weakened side. McGeeney will be happy, and he'll be happy with the way obviously they came back at Donegal and nearly could have levelled it or even stole the game. But Donegal will be delighted with, a couple of weeks ago they were playing absolutely turgid stuff, very slow, very laboured, no ingenuity at all, just completely devoid of ideas going across the pitch. And McBurdy was the only man, even during all of that, who actually was saying, give me the ball, I'll stick it over the bar. He rattled, I think, 1-7 or 1-8 against Dublin. I think he got 5 or 6 or 7 yesterday. He's just been absolutely brilliant. It's great to see him back. A fella who obviously suffered a really, really bad injury. And all of a sudden, Donegal are kind of going, okay. They're not gone away at all. So Ulster, as usual, will just be an absolute nightmare to come out of. And whoever comes out of it will have obviously earned their spurs,
McCurry, Clifford, McBurty, who are the final 2?
I think when you look at Mayo, obviously.
How long did it take you to fall asleep last night?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm tired. I got 1 hour sleep.
You can see from the lines of my face, Johnny. It's been quite an eventful evening. O'Donoghue for Mayo has been really good. I thought after the All-Ireland final last year he could go one of 2 ways. After missing the penalty, and a lot of people probably would have said, that was the turning point. He could have just, gone away, lack of confidence as a forward, a fella who probably would have, maybe had a hard winter. But he went the other way, and which is brilliant for him. Young guy, he took it on. He obviously had good people around him to say, listen, don't worry about it. These things happen. Pick your head up and go again. And he's been absolutely fantastic for them this year. He's been a guy that isn't just taking on scores. He's been winning his own ball, winning dirty ball, getting hit, getting up, taking his own frees. And when they've struggled, obviously, without having Cillian O'Connor and other guys up front at times, he has really done it for them. So he's been excellent. I think Jordan Flynn has been really good for them as well. He scored 1-2 yesterday from midfield. And he's a guy that I've been watching. Ruan sometimes gets whipped off. He does a lot of hard work, but Flynn does just as much. And another fella who kind of came out of the shadows, I suppose, over the last number of years. So he's been really good. Just on Armagh, I think obviously Ronan Neal has been really good. They've been excellent. I think Armagh are building nicely. So McGeeney is getting them going well. As I said, I don't think he'd be too worried about yesterday. They'll be primed for Donegal in a couple of weeks. And then I think Dublin need a mention. There hasn't been many who've been really, really consistent for them. But I think Costello has been one that has stood up. Now, there was 1 or 2 incidents yesterday where I thought balls came into him. They were 50-50 balls that you have to go for. And he kind of... for me, he didn't go full-blooded for them, but that's always a question mark over him. But at the same time, when he got the ball in his hand, he was absolutely dangerous, and he has been dangerous in all the other games he's played. So he has been a big addition to them. And when they get the rest of the players back, they probably need him firing, and obviously Dean Rock firing on all cylinders as well to complement O'Callaghan and Kenny. There's a couple of lads there. I think Ryan Houlihan has been brilliant for Kildare, the cornerback. I think he was away for a couple of years and he was doing some duty with the army, but he has been an absolutely brilliant addition to that full back line. A guy who's very sticky, well able to go forward, and he's been brilliant. I can't say, go through Sam Mulroy, I think, for Louth has been brilliant. They got promotion, really, really brilliant under Mickey Hart. They struggled, obviously, at the start of the league. I think they lost 1 or 2 or drew a couple of games at the start. It didn't look very good for them. They got an absolute cleaning, I think, from Laois. Let in a lot of goals, and then they just have seemed to got their defensive structure right. And to be fair, they won, I think, 4 or 5 on the bounce, so they've got promoted now. And Mulroy has been brilliant, kicking unbelievable scores. And I can't keep going without obviously mentioning the Meath man, and that man is Harry Hogan, our goalkeeper. And it's been a problem area for Meath over the last number of years. And in this lad, I think they have a real find. He's not only a very, very good goalkeeper, at shot stopping and organisation and everything else coming out of the ball, but he's brilliant with his restarts, his kickouts. He's excellent off the deck for shooting for 50s or whatever it is, frees. And he's a good lad, and I think he's going to be a massive find for them for this year.
All right, go on.
Yeah, and just 2 more, Jerry. You can't probably talk about kind of the talk of the league without mentioning that steward last week in Croke Park, who undoubtedly was the extra man for Dublin last week, and pity they couldn't bring him to Monaghan this week. I don't know if you saw him. I think the lads had a bit of footage on him, but this fella is he should be an honorary member now of the Dublin squad. I think he should be brought in, but only to be tipped by the Mayor Ishka yesterday from Monaghan, who got a bit of slagging from the Dublin fans on the up on their patch yesterday, and decided to give them the bird as he was running back to the sideline. So you need to check that footage out.
It's all good, clean fun until someone loses an eye. Good stuff, Anthony. Thanks a million for joining us. Cheers.
All right, lads, no bother.
Anthony Moyles giving us some thoughts on the weekend's GA action. You can leave a comment on the YouTube stream. We'll get to it in a couple of minutes' time. OTB AM is brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day.